Hello, hello, luminary. We are at that second half of the year now. We are in July, our Capricorn full moon. And in this episode, I want to explore why you need to face your inner oppressor.
Welcome to Star-Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii-born Filipino-Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be.
Whew, my friends, it has been a season. I'm recording this on June 30th, the day before July, even though solstice was last week. June 30th, at least according to our calendar year, our Gregorian calendar year, is the last day of the first half of the year. And I took a beat this morning because I have been so freaking stressed out. You have zero idea. And my husband is like, you just need to be grateful. And I'm like, how can I be grateful? I don't have time to be grateful. There's all these things. Like this week, I've been working till 2 a.m., finishing up brand books for clients, trying to get all my things set up so that I can go on a vacation tomorrow, a long earned vacation. I don't think I've had a vacation for I don't know how long. I might have had a day here, a day there, but always just checking in. And I know my team, thank you, Jamira, thank you, Jeff, for like just absolutely dealing with me because they're like, Leslie, we're confused. There's too many things going on. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there are too many things going on. So as I took a shower this morning, I just kind of took a beat to kind of just like look back and like, why am I so stressed out? I really honestly thought that I got my energy all figured out, but I'm still feeling just this tightening in, this pressure, this constraint, this restraint, this like hustle. I'm like, oh, I can just like feel it in my body. And then as I took a deep breath, and then I realized, oh, hello, my friend Saturn. I thought I was done for you for the moment. Saturn is like, you have to be kidding. Of course, you're not done with me just quite yet. But I looked back at my, last 6 months and I was like, dang, I have been through so much. I've been telling my friends that like I feel like I'm on this like ultra marathon. Ultra marathons are those like heavy duty races where you're running not just the 26-mile like a regular marathon, but you're running 50 miles, 100 miles. And I was like, I can see the finish line of my ultra marathon. My wonderful business coach Megan Hale has been talking me off a cliff because I'll be dropping her these like Voxer messages going, I don't know what I'm doing with my business anymore. And I talk to like some of my clients and they're like, we had no idea that you're going through all of this crazy stuff. But the people on the inside absolutely know. And I'm just talking about work, but when I look back at just like even the personal life in my life, like I have, of course, we have our family life, I have my business, and I'm also a professional musician. And then as I kind of just like, okay, practice gratitude, let's just take an inventory of what's been going on, I was like, oh my gosh, like, holy shit, excuse my language. I try not to swear here, but this last 6 months have possibly been like the hardest 6 months of my life. Like, I had no idea. I didn't even realize the journey that I've been on and the mountains that I have moved until this morning, like literally a few hours ago. I've been pushing so hard that I have not even seen the path that I have accomplished. Like, if I look back at the last 6 months from like January 1st till now, not to be like, I'm not sharing this to be like, oh, feel sorry for me. That's not what I'm saying for, but it's just like, yeah, I totally denied the fact that like my mom died at the beginning of the year, right? Like I barely processed the grief because of all the things that it takes to administer, like the tying up of somebody's life. I get back from Hawaii, my son broke his hand, my husband got of like COVID like twice. It was just like, oh my gosh, all in this process of becoming an elder, right? Just this squeezing through and this pressure. It's like, whew, thank you, Saturn, right? And then in my business, my team has been kind of like, what are you doing, Leslie? Because been talking on podcasts, like I'm promoting our eclipse retreat For executives, that's coming up in October. I'm promoting the Astrobrand certification that's coming up in August, for people who want to use the Astrobrand method in their work. And then in my circle, for my lovely astrology lovers and seekers, the people that want to learn about astrology and start budding their businesses, I have been on this crazy content creation, curriculum creation. It's not all for naught, but if I look back on what I accomplished, I basically wrote like three encyclopedias, three volumes of my body of my work at that Astrobrand method, the intersection between astrology, leadership, and inner healing. Um, I tear up at looking at how much I've accomplished, and like, no wonder I've been like absolutely frantic. And then that's not it. I'm not done yet. You probably remember that I've been saying that I'm a classical musician, and this is the first year back, like quasi post pandemic, where we've been traveling a lot and going back on tour. Our quintet has just completed its 18th season. This year alone, we went on 2 tours to the East Coast. We've had many, like, I don't even remember how many concerts I've performed this year with the quintet, educationals, master classes. I mean, life has been full. So it took me a hot minute this morning to just reflect back on, like, wow, all of the things that I've been pushing through, all the things that I have actually accomplished, even though I swore that I wasn't going to do this anymore, but how all of these things really needed to come through at this time. And so I'm opening up with this story because sometimes that pressure, right? That pressure can feel just like it, like you don't know what you're doing. And when you're in the middle of it without that kind of insight of like what's happening with with the astrological energies, it can just feel like you're crazy, or you're in this depression, or everything that you're not good enough because everything is just like falling between your fingers. But I'm going to talk a little bit about Saturn because we're coming up to this Capricorn full moon ruled by Saturn. Saturn is that energy that loves to put the pressure on. And in next week's episode, I'm going to be talking about the Saturn processes, part of my processes, planetary processes series. And Saturn's process is to turn doubt into mastery. And so I know that this time next year, when I look back at this time, I'm going to say, wow, Leslie, look at all of those accomplishments. And for at this moment in time, I need to just kind of like put my inner oppressor away, who's telling me that I'm not good enough, that I suck because people are confused, or people don't want my work, or people don't believe in me, or all these things, because I can rationalize and know that those things are not true. Yet my lovely little inner oppressor, my self doubt, thanks to Saturn, is saying, whew, like you suck. And so taking a beat to reflect, to give myself some self compassion, some self gratitude is how I'm going to open up my inner oppressor. And today, as we are approaching our Capricorn full moon and on the heels of July, I'll be sharing with you in this episode the highlights of July, the Capricorn full moon, how to personalize your Capricorn full moon according to your sign, and a breakthrough ritual to break free from your Capricornian trap. All right, my friends, let's dig in. So first off, I want to start off with sharing the July Business Starcast. This is one of these things where I've been feeling trapped in terms like I send out these, if you're on my email newsletter list, you know that I send out a monthly Starcast. Several years ago, when I first started out as an astrologer, I was writing the beautiful Star Medicine for Asha Frost's membership at the time. And then I was in Kate Northup's community for Origin. Both Asha and Kate Northup's communities have since closed for beautiful reasons. And in Kate Northup's communities, I was writing the cosmic weather. And then on my end, I was also repurposing for my business, changing a few things, writing the Starcast. And these Starcasts started to get bigger and bigger and more inflated because I was trying to give everybody all the things. And as I do with all my Jupiter, the shadow of Jupiter is that instead of giving people little tastes and amuse bouches and little bites of things, and like little flights, little flights of like if you go to like a bar for like wine tasting or beer tasting, they'll give you like little pours of each of those drinks so you could sample. I was basically like asking somebody to like chug down a keg. So Jeff was like telling me, here is your very first business Starcast you ever wrote. Look at how succinct and how clean and how digestible it was. And I was like, oh yeah, this idea that I'm not good enough has been expressing in me overgiving, and that's not helpful either, right? To like deluge people with just so much information that they can't possibly digest or consume or integrate it all. So Jeff and I were talking about, he's like, why don't we just try doing something new with the July forecast, Starcast? If you get my emails, you might notice that there's a slightly different tone, a slightly different, an easier way to take a look. So, if you've been receiving the Starcast but not reading them, if my emails are ending up in spam or junk, kindly please resurrect them from the junk box, the spam box, and bring them back in your inbox, because I'm going to be doing my best again with my team. Our code word for this quarter 3 is to snatch. It's kind of a slang word that you think of like all of those beautiful like hip hop stars, and they have these and like Kim Kardashian, they have these teeny tiny waists, and they might be wearing some like type of corset or bodice underneath to like give them that really like defined hourglass look. Well, that kind of like really tight kind of waist is called snatched. And so that's again the key word for this quarter is snatched. And so I snatched the business Starcast. So if you haven't seen it for a while, go in your spam box, please resurrect it, put me back into your inbox. And if you don't get the Starcast, remember you can always get my Starcast at starpower.com/Starcast. It's a free monthly newsletter, and you'll be signed up to all of my little things that I send over the course of a month. So I'll be sharing a little bit of the highlights of this Starcast, and I really hope that you enjoy. So let's take a look at what's happening, the download on July, and then we'll be diving a little bit deeper into Capricorn and your breakthrough ritual so that you can break free from all of those Capricornian traps. All right. So in July, that vibe that we're feeling is much more passionate, analytical, knowing, and re energizing. So July starts off very quietly in the cosmos, except for our full moon in Capricorn. So we open up with our full moon in Capricorn on Monday so that you can break free of your inner oppressor's traps, right? Society system, we have our own traps and our own oppressions. We cannot break those traps, but we can break the traps that hold and bind us on the inside. So as July unfolds, we have a few planetary face-offs, meaning oppositions in the sky, just like a full moon where the sun and the moon face off in each other. We'll have a couple of face-offs, and by the end of the month, Venus, the ruler of connection and attraction, begins her most rare she herself is not rare, but her retrograde cycle of all of the planets happens the least. And so it's a great time to reevaluate your relationship to love, self-love, play, and joy by the end of the month. Now, to embrace and radiate joy is absolutely a revolutionary and a radical act and upgrade. I know I could use a whole lot more of joy, just looking back on the last 6 months that have been all about grit and hard work. The next 6 months, especially tomorrow, I'm really going to be prioritizing play and family and downtime and simply just being. Now, to value play is to value your creativity, growth, communications, connections, emotional intelligence, and physical vitality. Play and pleasure is not just for children. It's actually a way that we learn and integrate everything that we need to know. It's a time to reevaluate your sense of passion and joy for both inner healing and outward radiance. And play is absolutely 100% productive in your work life. Now, in July, I want you to release the notion that you need to work hard, bring in a dose of self love, and harness the power of play to shine brighter. You know that as I'm writing these starcasts for you, I'm actually writing them for me. I'm like, oh, did I write this? Yes, I did. I'm like, I need that medicine. And so, let's take a look at some of the highlights. So, in July, we have a few cosmic shifts. We have Mars entering Virgo on July 10th, as well as Mercury entering Leo on July 10th. So mark your calendar for July 10th. We're going to have some inner planet shifts. So I want you to notice what energies come up for you. Now, this is a big one. This happens only every 19 months or so, but our lunar nodes are changing from the Taurus Scorpio axes and moving backwards into the Aries Libra axes. Remember that the lunar nodes are points in the sky, calculations, the dragon's head or the dragon's tail, where the north node, at least collectively for the transiting north node, is our collective soul conscious. And the south node is our past, our collective things that we need to resolve and still like undo the shadows of. And so moving collectively into Aries with the lunar north node in Aries means that we are all being asked to find our individuality. To me, what is our individual contribution? Not to be just a silo in a community, but like, what is our gift, our unique gift, our one of a kind identity and being that we are meant to contribute into the world? That Libra, the shadows of Libra that we're going to be looking through for those lunar nodes, that Libra is saying, stop people pleasing, stop keeping the peace, stop trying to hold balance when we're not looking for equality, we're looking for equity. And so I'm super curious. I'm recording this the day after the Supreme Court just dissolved affirmative action, and we are not playing on equal ground. Okay, Brown and Black people and people who have been othered are not playing on privileged equal ground. The ground is unsteady, and affirmative action works. And I'm really afraid, just the Supreme Court has just been doing terrible things with abortion and women's rights and now education rights. And what's going to happen next? I don't even want to say it. Okay, so that happens anyway on July 17th. And then July 22nd, the last part of July, we have the Venus retrograde. Venus retrograde begins at Leo of 28 degrees. It's going to go all the way back. I'll do an episode on Venus retrograde, so I'll save that for a little bit later. But on that same day, the sun also enters Leo. So we're getting ready to shine bright. And lastly, the end of the month, we have Mercury entering Virgo on July 28th, where Mercury will be having an extended stay in Virgo because we have a Mercury retrograde in Virgo happening in August. Our lunations, the first one that we're going to be talking about in just a little bit is our full moon in Capricorn. And then we have on July 3rd, and then we have our new moon in Cancer on July 17th. I'm really looking forward to that new moon in Cancer. I absolutely love new moons, and I love connecting with my community members in Circle when we do our monthly new moon ceremonies and set our intentions together and just talk about all the things that Cancer wants, or whatever the sign is, whatever the refreshed intention around that energy wants to come through. So those are the highlights of July. I wonder which of those are most exciting for you. I'm really looking forward to that Venus retrograde. Again, we'll be talking more about that in a future episode, a future podcast episode. So let's talk about these lunations. So the first lunation, our Capricorn full moon at 11 degrees on Monday, July 3rd, 4:34 a.m. Pacific, 7:38 a.m. Eastern. So, this upcoming full moon, of course, ruled by Saturn, can symbolize the systems that keep us in boxes, right? Our society, our culture, maybe even family expectations and duty are filled with all of these oppressions that teach us to rely on external authority, right? Like, look to this expert, listen to your dad, listen to your boss, and work tirelessly towards others' goals, where we start to doubt our own expertise and take on responsibilities that aren't ours. Okay. I notice that people who have a lot of Capricorn in their charts have a lot. I love reframing how we're supposed to see Capricorn. If you want to listen to more Capricorn episodes, of course I have the Capricorn archetype episode, and then next week I'll be dropping an episode on the Saturn's planetary process. Now, at a full moon, right, the Capricorn moon is receiving the light of the Cancer sun. And because we have the full moon, why they are so highly emotional is because the sun is exposing all of the tender parts, all of the places we don't feel emotionally safe, and all the places that we feel insecure, right? The moon is about our emotional safety, our emotional security. And so we put it into light of this Capricorn insecurity. That's why these full moons are so potent, because we can see all the ways that we've been held back. Because remember, our moon, our emotions, our emotional security are our gatekeepers to our action. If we're not feeling secure, then guess what? We're not going to take action, or we're going to take action based on fear. But if we're feeling secure and emotionally safe, then we are still able to take risks, even if they're scary. So that's why it's really important to face your oppressions, at least with this Capricorn moon, but to face all of your tender parts, to accept them and understand them and bring it to light. Now, for this Capricorn full moon, we're looking at external pressures that we have then absorbed, that have become that have a way of becoming inner oppressors, right? So, all the expectations that society, culture, media, our family put on us, it shapes the way that we think and we process. And before you know it, those limiting beliefs and those limiting stories and those shoulds and those obligations and those responsibilities and those duties, we think that they're coming from within ourselves. And that is what I call the inner oppressor, right? The inner oppressor could show up like fear or doubt or people pleasing. It could show up like overachieving and perfectionism, right? Especially for Brown and Black folk, we have this inner oppressor so deeply woven into our fabric because more than likely we've been told our entire lives that we weren't worthy or enough. And so we start to embody that. And so by looking at our inner oppressor is to understand where we need to pluck that worst warden of ourselves out. And I bet you, if you're like me, you are ready to break free. And thank goodness we have this full moon right here and right now, because this is your opportunity to shatter that Capricorn inner and outer constraints, to liberate your Cancerian self validation, self acceptance, and nurture your sacred divinity. So, the reason why we look at the shadows of the moon for the full moon is because then we can see what is blocking us or preventing us from achieving our Cancerian desires, our Cancerian intentions. And so it's so beautiful that we have this Capricorn full moon right before we have 2 weeks before the Cancer new moon, because now we get to like get rid of all of those Capricorn blocks that prevent us from achieving our Cancerian intentions. And to value the Cancerian strengths of acceptance, kindness, belonging, validation, existence, caring, nurturing, cultivating, right? If you feel yourself like saying, oh, those things are not important, these are absolute the basis self-validation, self-acceptance, self-belonging that you need in order to grow, right? Of course, in our society as it is right now, our patriarchal society, we do not value caretaking. That's all about Cancerian, right? What if we got rid of the word caretaking and we said nurturer, cultivator, fosterer? Those are all Cancerian. How can we foster our own sense of acceptance that we are beautiful and lovable just the way we are? Because ultimately, that is the sacred divine mother. Like, how can we kill our mother if I mean, obviously we can kill our mother if we don't love our mother. And I'm talking about like the divine mother, right? So to bring in more of that self-care and the self-validation and the self-acceptance, the self-belonging, the self-nurturing of Cancer. We're going to get to that for the Cancer new moon. But today we're going to be looking at those Capricornian traps, the shoulds, the doubts, um, the duties, the responsibilities that aren't ours that keep us away from self acceptance. Now, during this lunar phase, you're probably, like me, already feeling pretty intense emotions related to power, control, your personal sense of authority. And it's an excellent time to explore these feelings with acceptance, non judgment, to dig into your own relationship with your own authority. Do you know your own authority? Even if it is, quote, only just, right? It's not only just, right? For those of us that are self taught or have all of these different life experiences, even if we didn't have like accreditations or go to all of these fancy schools, that's not your fault. You still have authority and expertise built in from your own life experience, your ancestry, your culture, the way that you grew up, the way that you learned to be resourceful, all of those things. That is your authority and your expertise. And so I want to talk a little bit back to, this Lizzo masterclass, because I've been still communicating with the people that took the Lizzo masterclass during solstice. And there's one episode that really stands out to me that I would love for us to kind of model in our Capricorn release ritual, our break free ritual. So if you haven't already yet, watched Lizzo's Watch Out for the Big Girls season 1 on Amazon Prime, I highly recommend that you watch it. And in episode 4, it's called Naked. Lizzo wants her dancers to overcome their own self-hatred and negativity of having a bigger body through their healing journey, right? Of embodying sensuality, learning the choreo and learning her choreo to her song Naked. And then lastly, doing a daring nude photo shoot, right? I often use the word naked when I'm doing these kinds of one-on-one sessions with my clients, because what I mean by naked is that there's no hiding, right? All of our stretch marks, all of our, funny skin, if we have wrinkles or sags or whatever, right? We're still beautiful. We're still whole. All of those scars have been a lived experience that we're not meant to hide. And so in this episode, especially for Lizzo and for, her big girl dancers, right? We've always had this kind of otherness. And of course, these episodes relate so strongly to me because I'm, a bigger bodied person. I'm not exactly plus size, but I'm definitely not petite. right? Growing up, especially growing up in Hawaii, where mostly everybody, at least in my neighborhoods, were like Filipino and Japanese, like I was definitely like the biggest girl in elementary school, in middle school, and like one of the biggest people in high school. And constantly, like, oh, you're so beautiful, your face is so wonderful, but you got to work on your body. Like, oh, you could totally be a model if you lost 20 pounds. And that kind of shit, man, that sticks with you forever. And so Lizzo understands that her girls have likely heard those same things, and she wants them to go on this healing journey. She wants them to learn to love their body and to feel their own sensuality in their body and bring that into the choreography of her song Naked. And so in the choreography, Lizzo asks her dancers to choose one word that captures what has held them back and trapped them from being seen, from expressing themselves, from loving themselves. So the dancers chose words like fat, perfectionism, doubt, all of those things. And Jayla, one of my favorite characters, she's a transgender darling of the show. The word that Jayla chose was Jayla. Oh my gosh. Jayla shared that she's her worst enemy, like not loving herself, not believing in herself, and how she's kept herself just hiding and invisible. And during the dance performance, right? Well, going back to Jayla, I didn't finish about Jayla. Like, I can totally relate to being my own worst enemy. I look at all the times when I was young, how I would literally vote against myself when we would have these auditions. Like I was a really, really, really serious clarinet player in middle school and high school. And when I was going to conservatory, I was like really pushing myself to become a professional, win on audition. And we would have these like auditions at this music camp. It was the first time I left Hawaii for like 3 months to go to like this arts camp called Interlochen. And every Friday we would have these voting situations where it was kind of blind. You would put your hand over your eye and you would listen to two people, these challenges. You would listen to two people, and then the rest of the group would vote on who was better. And so everybody would put their hand down, including the people who just played. And when it was time to vote, you'd raise your hand and the teacher would, tally everything up. At my next lesson, my teacher was like, you voted against yourself. If you had voted for yourself, you would have won. And I feel like that's kind of like the story of my life in so many ways. And so when Jayla wrote that word Jayla, her own name for the trap, I was like, oh man, I got a lot of work to do still. So going back to Lizzo's show, excuse me, I'm getting a little teary eyed here. During the dance performance, each of the girls, right, they're on the stage, and each of the girls wrote their word on this kind of like glass mirror. Of course, it's like stage glass, it's not really glass, but it was like this framed standing glass mirror. And during the choreography, at like the perfect moment, after they wrote the word on the glass, they all kicked the glass, shattering that trap that has held them back, and walked through that frame of the mirror. Like, I'm already crying again. Seeing these dancers like shatter and walk through these traps that have held them back, like, oh my gosh, like I'm crying even just thinking about it. Every time I've watched, this series a few times to kind of do the master class and teach about it, I still cry every time because it's so moving to see these dancers shatter their traps, their emotional traps that they have created for themselves or society has created for them, and walk through liberated. Okay. So, this full moon, I want you to choose a word. I want you to choose, just like these dancers chose, a word that has been holding you back, a word that symbolizes what has held you back. And if you're like, oh, I have this phrase or this sentence or this paragraph, I'm going to be like, no, girl, no person, one word. Boil it down to one word. You can pour all your meaning, but I want you to choose one word. right? Now, if you took this masterclass, the Lizzo masterclass, I asked you to choose one word where the word was like, what do you still need to bring in acceptance for something that you still wanted to change about yourself? So if you took that masterclass and you chose that one word, bring back that word, see if that still feels like a trap, the one thing that you haven't yet changed about yourself. Or maybe this word is a fear. Maybe this word is an expectation. Maybe this word is a limitation. This word should feel like when you say it, it should feel constrained. It should be feel pressure. It could feel like you have like a chokehold, like a trap in your throat, because this is the box that you need to break free from, right? My word, it's always my word. It's comparison. I still do it, right? Just like the story about like me voting against myself, always thinking that somebody else is better than me. Even though logically I'm like, I know I'm good. I know that my work is powerful. I'm still looking at all those other people thinking I'm not good enough, that I don't know enough, that I'm not worthy enough, that I'm not successful, that I'm not lovable. Like after all these years, after all of the success that I've already achieved, this is still my word. Right. What I've learned about comparison is that it's an expression of the imposter syndrome. Do I feel like an imposter? I don't know if imposter, yeah. If comparison is an expression of the imposter syndrome, I guess my imposter syndrome is that I'm not an expert, right? All Capricorn, all Saturnian themes. So, what will be the word that you write to symbolically break free and shatter with this full moon ritual? What will your word be, the word of your oppressor that you will shatter and break free from this full moon? Now, this is a water and earth moon. And so, one of the things that I love to do with these release ceremonies for this full moon is like, yeah, if you have a safe space, you can like be like Lizzo's and her team and write this word in lipstick on a mirror, well, or glass or something, because I guess mirrors are bad luck to break, and then break it safely, like in a Jewish wedding where you put it in the bag and like break it, whatever it feels like for you. For me, I'm gonna be writing it on a piece of paper and be tearing it up into little pieces. And because it's water or earth, I encourage you to release those little pieces, those little shatters, right? Not glass. Don't bury glass. Don't put glass in the water. But if you tear up a little piece of paper, right? Put those little pieces of paper in the water, or make sure it's like plastic free paper, or bury it in the ground. Let the earth absorb your oppressor. Okay. So, my friends, last thing that I want to share with you, just really, really quickly, for your customizations, if you're having a hard time, if you're a Capricorn or a Cancer, I want you to consider, where am I claiming or giving away my power? Who is the expert? If you are a Leo or Aquarius, for you all, where are you overworking? Am I making room to rest? Oh my gosh, I'm laughing. I like wrote this so long ago and I'm like, oh, yeah, am I making room to rest? I haven't been. Have I been overworking? Oh my gosh, yes. I have to laugh because this is just, you can't make this stuff. um, if you are a Virgo or a Pisces, where are you replicating your oppression? What needs to change? So for y'all, you are being your own worst oppressor. So maybe for you, just like how Jayla, your name is the name that you need to shatter, or the word that you need to shatter. Libra, Aries people, where am I not saying no? And where am I being accountable or responsible? Scorpio, Taurus people, where am I believing in something just because it's always been? Is it true? And Sagittarius, Gemini people, where am I undervaluing my contribution? Is the price equitable? Okay, my friends. So I wrote this for your rising sign, but rising sign, sun sign, moon sign, just feel into which one calls you. So I'd love to hear what you think about this kind of new format. I'd love to hear what your word is and that you're going to break free from with this Capricorn full moon. And if you love this episode, please head on over to Apple Podcasts and leave me a rating and review. I need to get my work out to more people. I know this work has a life of its own that needs to move further, that it needs to serve more people. So please help me bring the winds of change by sharing this with your people. All right, my friends, happy full moon, happy July.
As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.